maybe controversial topic. I don't know if you read the news recently, but there's a lot of tax policy conversation going on, both here in California and nationally as well. What's your thought on where this ends up in terms of the tax policy?
I think we will get a tax bill. I think they will squeak it through, and they'll make whatever adjustments they have to get the last few votes. I don't think it's a bit crazy to give this extra $2,000 a year to all those people who make $70,000 a year and have a lot of children. That strikes me as it's good politics and probably good policy. I also do not think it is crazy to reduce the corporate income tax on the C corporation. If you look at the world, a lot of the places that have worked best, including Singapore and so forth, have that policy and may even have good macroeconomic consequences. And a lot of the people who are screaming about it and are so sure it won't work, they may not be right. It may actually work pretty well. It causes the capital values of the companies to come up, and there's a wealth effect from the increased market value of all the companies. Everybody recognizes there's an effect, but some people say it's small and some people say it's going to be large. And I'll tell you what they all have in common, none of them know. It is not totally inconceivable that it will work pretty well. And with so much of the world doing well with similar tax policy, and of course, the Democrats go berserk on this subject. But I think they're wrong. It may actually help them. Yeah, so I'm not sure it'll work. It may not, but it's not totally crazy.
Well, it reminds me of a piece of advice that you've offered and given to me, which is, people often have a point of view, and the danger in having that point of view is you start to assume with certainty that you're right.
Absolutely, totally crazy.
And I think what your point of view is you need to have a point of view.
Just a minute. Here's a very important subject I've been thinking about all my life. You asked for my opinion.
Yes.
I don't really know how well it's going to work. I don't think anybody else does either. I think it'll work to some extent, but how much I don't know. Now, is it unfair? Well, the corporations are by and large owned by a bunch of charitable endowments and by a bunch of pension plans, and the whole world is going into a world where they're trying to have the business interests of the company support their huge pension obligations that get bigger all the time. China is trying to do exactly what the Republicans are. China wants to have the main businesses in China owned more by the pension plans and the stocks to do well. I don't think China's crazy to have that. I don't think the Republicans are crazy either. It could work pretty well. And it's not just some evil thing that people are cooking up. It's a disagreement between people. And both sides who have violent hatreds and contempt for the other side, they're wrong. It's a disagreement on policy that ought to be civilized. When I see Congress on my television set and the degree of hatred they have, utter contempt, it's evil to hate that much. It's a mistake to hate that much. That much hatred will turn. It's always been true. As anger comes in, reason leaves. It's a truism. So do you want to adopt a political point of view where you're angry all the time? If you do, welcome to the house of misery. So if that's what you want, you've just found out how to do it. Behave like those people you see on television.
Well, the other thing that's
in both parties, by the way.
Yeah. The other thing that's true, going back to one of your earlier comments, is the difference between a careerist mindset and a service or shareholder mindset, where in politics, we have the emergence of a careerist mindset that is shaping how people behave because they're trying to survive.
Not only that, they have a group think. Just as the Moonies go crazy because they hang around together, so do our politicians.
Yeah,
And
right.
do you want to go crazy? Is that what your ambition in life? Just make yourself a violently believing politician on either side. You'll turn your brain into cabbage. You only got one brain. Why would you want to turn it into cabbage?
Avoided is extremely intense ideology because it cabbages up one's mind. You've seen that, and you see a lot of it, in TV preachers, for instance. They've all got different ideas about theology, and a lot of them have minds that are made of cabbage, but that can happen with political ideology. And if you're young, it's easy to drift into loyalties. And when you announce that you're a loyal member and you start shouting the orthodox ideology out, what you're doing is pounding it in. And you're gradually ruining your mind. So you want to be very, very careful with this ideology. It's a big danger. In my mind, I've got a little example I use whenever I think about ideology, and that's these Scandinavian canoeists who succeeded in taming all the rapids of Scandinavia, and they thought they would tackle the whirlpools of the Erin Rapids here in the United States. The death rate was 100%. A big whirlpool is not something you want to go into, and I think the same is true about a really deep ideology. I have what I call an iron prescription that helps me keep sane when I naturally drift toward preferring one ideology over another. And that is, I say, I'm not entitled to have an opinion on this subject unless I can state the arguments against my position better than the people do who are supporting it. I think only when I've reached that state am I qualified to speak. Now, you can say that's too much of an iron discipline. It's not too much of an iron discipline. It isn't even that hard to do. I don't think it's too tough for me, but it's too tough for most people. But this business of not drifting into the extreme ideology is a very, very important thing in life.